Oh, hello. There are a buttload of cards in Magic the Gathering. Some of them are gas, while others you should simply pass. So how do you know if a Magic the Gathering card stinks? Well, it can be hard to tell the difference between these cards at first whiff. A lot of them sound similar, even when they have dramatically different results. Take Toxic Stench, for instance. This is the type of card that could totally ruin a creature's day, but Stench of Evil, which sounds like it should be pretty similar, is only a problem when people let it rip on planes. Another example that may have been dealt, Fatal Fumes. 4 whole mana to give a creature -4, -2? I'll pass, thanks. Fume Spitter, on the other hand, now that's a card that can make some noise in Limited at the very least. Some cards are only good in certain environments. Sure, letting loose a big trumpet blast may feel great in a crowded battlefield, but do you really want to walk right into a silent but deadly sulfurous blast? The longer you spend wafting through the atmosphere of these Magic the Gathering cards, the better you'll be at sniffing out the good from the bad, but let's see where you stand right now. I'm about to let loose 5 cards to test your nose for what's gas and what's a pass. I'll tell you what they do, and you tell me in the comments whether or not they stink. Are you ready? Take a deep breath. We're diving in. First, we have a removal spell from an all-time great Limited format, Smell Fear. Proliferate, then make one of your creatures fight one of your opponents. Smell Fear was not something you want to pass when you're drafting green in Modern Horizons 2. The potency of this proliferation across the battlefield, plus the ability to smack a creature in the face, makes it an unpleasant double whammy for your opponents. And it's a common, so you can expect to smell fear anytime you see a player put green mana in their decks. Smell Fear hasn't hit any other format quite as hard as Modern Horizons 2 Draft, but it's certainly gotten around. Why, I had Smell Fear in the body of my Build Your Own Azuri Precon that I released on this channel. In lower power commander decks with proliferation synergies, Smell Fear is exactly the kind of effect you want to unleash as often as you can. Next up is a sweeper that was certainly gas in Baldur's Gate Draft, the kind of design that makes the whole table pick up their cards when it hits, but so far it hasn't permeated into any other format. When you let loose a Cloud Kill, for 6 mana you shrivel the board based on the size of your commander. The bigger your commander, the bigger the cloud. Your commander better be a pretty big cheese to make Cloud Kill worth letting loose in your deck, let alone onto the stack. At 5 mana value and up, Cloud Kill will suffocate most creatures on a typical battlefield. It may even be worth letting loose a Cloud Kill if your commander costs 4. But anything less than that, and you're making a big stink for nothing. I mean, why spend 6 mana on a wipe that only has the potency of a 3 mana Choking Miasma? There are a lot of sweepers like Cloud Kill, disgusting in their draft environment, but undetectable anywhere else. The Black Breath, for instance, was playable in Lord of the Rings Limited for 2 reasons. 1, it was one of those cards your opponents feel way more than you. 2, the Ring Tempts You mechanic was gas in that format. A tempted Haunt of Dead Marshes can float like a willow wind right past the helpless blockers and hit your opponent right in the face. Next up, we have a spicy red spell with an unpleasant afterburn. I'm unlikely to ever go anywhere near this card, personally, but I know some players don't mind the feeling of letting this one rip. And just what are they letting rip? Liquid Fire, a 6 mana sorcery with an effect that's more intuitive than the people who made the card seem to think. Deal 5 damage divided as you choose between target creature and that creature's controller. The people who make Magic thought players wouldn't know what they're getting into when they put Liquid Fire in their deck, so they errated its oracle text to be way more complicated than it needs to be. Trust me, when there's a Liquid Fire on the stack, you will know exactly what's happening. I'm not gonna blow smoke here. Liquid Fire is not very good. 6 mana is a lot for an effect that ultimately doesn't have quite as much lasting damage to your plan as it feels like it will when it's happening to you. As unpleasant as it is for liquid fire to spill out of your creature and hit you in the face, after a while, you'll recover. You may even be tempted to forget the experience altogether, but I wouldn't recommend it. If a player is capable of hitting you with a liquid fire in the face, you don't want to walk right into it, do you? Personally, if I'm sitting down at a friend's kitchen table for an evening of Magic, I'd want to know if liquid fire is in my future. The next card on our list is as flexible as it is disruptive, an unpleasant note to start any game of Magic, at least if your opponent is the one firing it off. Rip Apart, the 2-mana Abrade variant from the Strixhaven College of Lorehold, a card capable of messing up a player's plans regardless of what they had in mind. Early on in a game night, Rip Apart can stop just about anything in its tracks, especially if they don't see it coming. The longer the game goes, the more you may run into difficulty finding a favorable opening to let out a Rip Apart. Many of the bigger creatures in Magic have bigger butts that can handle the damage dealt by a card like Rip Apart. They might not even notice when a Rip Apart hits them. Of course, if you soften them up first with the burn of a manhole missile, then Rip Apart will really pile on the pain. If even the scent of an unfavorable 2-for-1 makes you queasy though, don't worry. On its own, a well-placed Rip Apart is still more than capable of ending a quiet contemplation or tearing a hole in a spider suit. Why, I remember a time when I let out a potent Rip Apart when my opponent had made a whole plan around an enchanted evening, and let me tell you, that ended the night pretty much on the spot. Next up, we have a spell so vile it was banned in Modern. Sorry to anyone traumatized by memories of being hit with this card in the middle of a tournament. I can't hold it in anymore. Our next card is Violent Outburst, a 3-mana go-wide pump effect that could strike anytime, anywhere. But as much as a Violent Outburst can certainly make itself known on a wide board, the real trouble isn't on the outburst itself. When a Violent Outburst hits the air, you never know what's coming down the pipes behind it. Generally, a Violent Outburst is not a card you want to let rip unless you have a good idea of what will happen next. You should have built your whole game plan around your tendency to release a Violent Outburst from turn 3 onward. Whether it leads to crashing footfalls as your enemies run for cover, or simply resolves in a living end, a Violent Outburst is always the thing of nightmares. If you wait to cut loose until your opponent's turn, you can back your Violent Outburst up with force, the kind of play that'll make them scoop up their cards in disgust. Sometimes I like to drop a Violent Outburst with subtlety, especially if I think Tishana's Tidebender might be waiting to sniff it out. Rather than win the game outright, some players who like a Violent Outburst prefer to plan for it to restore balance, leaving everyone feeling empty and light. Be careful though, sometimes a Violent Outburst can result in an inevitable betrayal. Talk about being hoisted by your own petard. That means blown up to your own bomb in Shakespearean. Next up, we have a card sure to elicit some groaners when you let it rip, especially when it totally interrupts what the other player was trying to do. Trust me, there's nothing more devastating to the person sitting across from you than when you let loose an ill-timed explosion. A 4-mana sorcery that's great for clearing out unwanted rabble. When there's no one around and you don't feel the need to wipe, Ill-Timed Explosion can help you keep the gas flowing. But if you do need to blow up the board, just drop a deuce in the yard and enjoy the peace and quiet that follows. When you're feeling the pressure, there's no better relief than an ill-timed explosion. If there's any gunk clogging up the top of your curve, simply flush it away and clear out the battlefield in the process. The problem, of course, is that when you let loose that ill-timed explosion, it isn't going to make you many friends. Even if it only happens rarely, nobody likes to see an ill-timed explosion hit their creatures, and if you are the kind of person who drops an ill-timed explosion every game, nobody is going to want to play with you anymore. What's more, an ill-timed explosion gone wrong is humiliating. Say you're under pressure and about to lose control. You know an ill-timed explosion is coming, but you may not release anything potent enough to adequately scorch the battlefield. Sure, you may knock out a few creatures with weaker constitution, but the more stout folk left standing will know exactly what you did. All this is to say, you should not let loose an ill-timed explosion lightly. If it runs you out of gas, you may find yourself in trouble when the smoke clears. You do not want to be caught with your pants down when all you have left is an eroded canyon and a wandering fumarole. Last on our list is a card that I'm unfortunately all too familiar with. In fact, you've probably seen me release a few of them on this very channel. Longtime viewers have been blasted by my Tolarian Winds more than once. It's the perfect card when your curve is becoming bloated from a series of bad draws. For 2 mana at instant speed, Tolarian Winds turns hopeless dead air into a breath of fresh air. Now, that is to say that's how I feel when I release my Tolarian Winds, but the staff here at TCC seem to have other opinions. I keep getting complaints about how often I release this card. I let loose a Tolarian Winds after I've been clogged all game and unable to put anything on the stack. And then, all of a sudden, everyone says, I don't want to keep playing, and I have to get back to work. What exactly did I do wrong here? What, when I have Tolarian Winds, I'm just supposed to hold it? I don't think so. I'm not going to sit around with Tolarian Winds stuck in my system. If you didn't want me to release my Tolarian Winds, you shouldn't have sat down to play pre-modern with me. That's your problem, not mine. And there you have it, our pass or gas video so that you can test your nose for card evaluation. And if you think us doing an entire video about the top fart cards in Magic the Gathering is too much, just wait until you see next year's April Fool's video about the top constipation cards in Magic, featuring the greatest hits like Battle Strain and Fatal Push. This video was not sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, but they are sponsoring me to attend MagicCon Vegas. So if I talk about my going to MagicCon Vegas at the end of this video, it's almost like they paid me to do an entire video about the top Magic the Gathering fart cards. I am so excited to announce that I'm going to MagicCon Vegas to meet all of you. MagicCon is an incredible weekend of Magic the Gathering of all forms, from Commander to formats that are not Commander to Commander yet again. It's also a great place to meet some of your favorite Magic the Gathering artists, cosplayers, and content creators such as me, the Professor. I'll be doing a meet and greet with fans on Friday, May 1st from 1 to 2 p.m., and then again on Saturday, May 2nd from 11:30 to 12:30 p.m., and again later that day at the Black Lotus exclusive meet and greet from 3:30 to 5. On Sunday, I'm still going to be meeting and greeting with all of you from 11 to 12:30, and then I'll have the honor of playing on the Mana stage for Commander at Home Live. So you'll get to watch me play Commander with Olivia, Brian Kibler, and the rest. And all of it is going on at MagicCon Vegas. So thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for sponsoring me going to MagicCon Vegas to get to meet all of my awesome fans and let it rip on the Mana stage with Commander at Home Live. You sponsored Vegas, but kind of sponsored this video. Thank you.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Class is in session. It's Shuffle Up and Play's Secrets of Strixhaven pre-release episode, What's Sus? Because secrets. Who opens up this box?
I need this! I am so tired of turtles you do not understand. I am going to lose it!
Look.
Oh, I got
secrets. Oh, secrets.
Is a returning mechanic in this set, and this is one of the most well-known
secrets
cards.
I will play
secrets.
It's a
secrets.
that can.
I got secrets. I didn't realize it was in the special guest.
I didn't know either.
I got
Wait, there's
special guest
secret.
That's so cool.
If you ever find yourself with a good prop and an evil prop, and they're saying, I'm the real prop, just ask them to count to 3.